On Turkey's southern frontier, war has become a spectacle. Families gather on rooftops and watch as the forces of Islamic State close in on the town of Kobani, just inside Syria. Children play in an orchard, oblivious to the sound of mortars falling not far off. But Turkey is struggling to insulate itself from this conflict. IS control more and more of this porous border, and the jihadists are exploiting that to make money. These pictures from a local TV station show tractors crossing freely from IS-controlled Syria into Turkey. The trailers are filled not with agricultural equipment, but with crudely refined oil. One smuggler agreed to tell us how it works. He asked us to conceal his identity.
Islamic State have their own petrol stations. There's one in my village. You buy the fuel from there. You pay the money to IS and you pay them a tax as well. Then you smuggle it to Turkey.
In some places they pump the diesel across the border through irrigation pipes. In others, gangs of men float the fuel in canisters across a river. Local villagers say they're being pressed into service.
They use all sorts of threats. They say, we'll burn down your farm, we'll kidnap your family. IS intimidate you and force you to work for them.
The contraband isn't hard to find if you know where to look. But we understand that most of this fuel is sold wholesale to factories, but some of it ends up in impromptu petrol stations by the side of the road. The dirty diesel comes in small tankers from Syria and from Iraq. IS controls oil fields in both countries. How often? Every day, every week? How often? They come at night, this trader tells me, almost every night. They won't say exactly who their suppliers are, but they insist they have no direct contact with IS. Less than 100 metres down the road, there's a Turkish police checkpoint. The smuggled fuel is being sold right under their noses, and yet they do nothing to stop it. Turkey has in recent weeks increased its security presence on the border, and it's also taken steps to crack down on the smuggling. But the problem is far from eliminated. It's estimated that Islamic State could be making as much as $2 million a day from oil. Clearly, a proportion of the oil is being smuggled across through these border villages into Turkey. But we understand that it's only a relatively small proportion, and that IS makes the bulk of its money by selling oil inside Syria itself. And to do that, it needs the ability to refine. In an effort to cut off the jihadists' cash flow, America and our allies have bombed IS-controlled oil refineries in Syria. But in an industrial area of Gaziantep, a city in southern Turkey, we found one factory that's been exporting new refinery equipment back to Syria. Managers at the factory initially allowed us to film on condition we not name their company. They told us they'd supplied between 8 and 10 complete refinery systems to rebel-held parts of Syria in the past year. Each system can refine between 50 and 100,000 litres of fuel per day, roughly the same size as those targeted in the recent airstrikes. But they soon changed their minds. They asked us to stop filming, and they categorically denied doing any business with Islamic State.
No information.
Well, after 2 hours of intense discussion, we've come away without an interview. They didn't want to go on camera, and it's clearly a highly sensitive subject. But one thing they made clear again and again is that they don't believe they're doing anything illegal. We don't know whether any of these refineries were supplied to areas under direct IS control. But that control begins where the Euphrates leaves Turkey and enters Syria. It stretches the length of the river all the way into Iraq, territory that also happens to contain the bulk of the oil fields in the area. And so it is almost certain that the equipment supplied by the Turkish company is being used to refine oil sold by Islamic State, and thus helping to finance the group. If you want to meet members of Syria's so-called moderate opposition, come to Istanbul. Since the beginning of the conflict, this city has played host to numerous factions opposed to President Assad. But this open-door policy has extended to more radical groups as well, and Turkey has been accused of providing the space for IS to prosper. But, say Ankara's defenders, Turkish policy has largely followed that of the West.
This problem has been known to the US and other countries for at least a year and a half, if not 2 years. So we should not focus on just blaming Turkey, assuming that, if we think that Turkey has not done enough, the international community has done almost nothing to deal with this problem specifically.
In the markets of Gaziantep, Syrian refugees tell us that the presence of Islamic State is palpable. They say they see IS operatives openly doing business in the city's hotels. If Turkish policy is following that of the West, that may be about to change. But IS is by now arguably the most successful self-financing jihadist group in recent history, and many here fear that change may come too late.